Our opening words today are by Rabbi Shapiro. This is Rabbi Shapiro's translation of a blessing that is traditionally offered at an evening service. So it will conclude with a reference to twilight. It is not twilight. But its theme, praising the wonder of existence all around us, is timeless. Bless Adonai, who spins day into dusk. With wisdom, watch the dawn, gates open. With understanding, let time and seasons come and go. With awe, perceive the stars in lawful orbit. Morning dawns, evening darkens. Darkness and light yielding one to the other, yet each distinguished and unique. Marvel at life. Strive to know its ways. Seek wisdom and truth, the gateways to life's mysteries. Wondrous indeed is the evening twilight. We light our chalice today in honor of daylight, in honor of twilight, and in honor of the light of reason within us, seeking wisdom and truth amidst life's wondrous mysteries and amidst all this glorious happening. Our opening hymn today is 298, Wake Now My Sense. Please rise in body or spirit.
So welcome to First Parish in Bedford, a Unitarian Universalist congregation where we come together every week as a people with diverse beliefs and a shared commitment to bring more peace, love, and justice into the world to transform the planet with our care. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whether you worship one God, many gods, or no God, you are welcome here. I want to say a special welcome to our visitors this morning in person and on Zoom. We are so glad you're with us. Here in the sanctuary, you are invited to fill out a blue connection card, which you will find at the end of the pews in a little pocket. You can give that to one of the ushers during the offering time, and we will add you to our mailing list. In Zoom, we will put a link in the chat that you can fill out as your virtual connection card. Parents and caregivers of little ones, there's a nursery available downstairs for your convenience, but we are always delighted to have our littlest ones here in our sanctuary as well. After the service, everyone is invited to join us for coffee, tea, and fellowship in the common room and upstairs in the quiet room in 201. Few announcements today. I want to thank everyone who came out to the jazz concert last night, which was the last music committee concert of this church year. So I want to give a big thanks to the music committee for a year of wonderful concerts. And thank you to Dean, Buffy, Dave, Steve, and Emery for rocking the house last night. While you're in the common room for coffee hour today, you can stop by the environmental justice table. There are only 12 days left to submit a public comment, which is your opportunity to voice opposition to the developer's report regarding private jet expansion if you so are opposed. Stop by the EJC table to learn more, to write a comment, to sign a petition to the governor, or get a snazzy yard sign. Bedford residents, while you're there, you can also sign a petition to the Bedford Select Board asking them to negotiate a 100% renewable electricity default for the next town contract. Renewable electricity makes our carbon footprint smaller, makes the world safer for everyone. And finally, this Thursday, you can join the Environmental Justice Committee for a Bedford standout from 4 to 5 p.m. opposing private jet expansion at Veterans Memorial Park. That is where the standout is. And finally, today, after the service, from 11:30 to 1 p.m., we're going to be having a special discussion forum upstairs in the Bacon Room to talk about the proposed changes to Article 2 of the UUA bylaws. We've been talking about that all year, more commonly known as the 7 principles. The vote is coming up. This is a chance for us all to have a wonderful conversation about that proposal. There will be sandwiches. You can also join on Zoom, but you will have to provide your own sandwiches. Now, I would like to invite members of the Environmental Justice Committee up to say a few words as our Spotlight Committee of the Month.
What is the mission of the Environmental Justice Committee, also referred to as EJC? It's to help facilitate and coordinate action around environmental and climate justice, to live fully our 7th principle, and to achieve our vision of a viable and just world for all. We would welcome new members joining the committee. So if you're interested, let us know at the EJC table after the service, or reach out to any of the members on the committee for more information. As Pete Seeger says, participation, that's what's going to save the human race. Lois?
The Environmental Justice Committee has not only brought on some new friends, but kept me aware of the growing role climate plays in the world, land, sea, air, everywhere, and all needing our concern.
As a member of the committee, I feel the hope and sense of purpose that comes with taking action together.
I have come to realize during my tenure on the EJC that all my life I have consumed the products of our industrial and agricultural systems based on minerals and plants clawed from the earth at horrific environmental costs, then disposed of the junk and waste from this consumption, causing additional destruction. Mother Nature, I really owe you a debt I cannot pay.
Because our collectively continuing on with the status quo is what drives climate change, which affects the most vulnerable of the world first and worst, I am called to action. Having loved ones in India, and because my 5-year-old self's sense of that's just not fair has never left me, the injustice of climate change has been a source of despair for me. Working with the fabulous people of the Environmental Justice Committee has been an antidote to that despair. We collectively energize this congregation and beyond to do the sometimes personally inconvenient but globally significant actions that will get us all away from the status quo and to a more just world. What we do is also personally energizing. Hope you will join us in whatever way you can.
Hi, I'm Marjorie Romer. I live at Carlton Willard Village, where we've started a pretty active third act group. If you're interested in third act, ask me about it. This is my first year on the EJC, and it's been a way for me to connect with other people who care as I care about the environment and about our democracy. So it's been a way for me to enlarge my life and connect with Bedford and connect more with this church. So it's been a great experience.
Thank you to the members of the EJC for all the ways that you help this congregation live out its UU values in our personal lives and in our community. Thank you. Now, if you will please rise again, we will share our unison affirmation, which is in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en espíritu de amor, y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. Please be seated. All right, this is our time for our story for all ages. So families out in the Zoomosphere, this is a good time to gather around the cozy blue glow of your device. Our story today is called The Whale and the Teeny Tiny Fish. Once upon a time, there was a whale who fancied himself the mightiest animal in the ocean. He was very big and very strong, and he liked to let the other animals know it. Coming on through, most powerful animal in the ocean, he would bellow as he swam by. He was not always careful where he swam, and sometimes the great force of his passage would send the smaller animals tumbling off in all directions and ruin their tiny sandcastles on the ocean floor, which annoyed them very much. One day, as the whale was barreling on by, bellowing, "Coming on through, most powerful animal in the ocean," he got caught in an old fishing net that had become attached to the ocean floor. He strained and he struggled, flexing his mighty muscles and thrashing with his powerful tail, but he just got tangled up more and more. The more he struggled, he was stuck. Teeny tiny fish swam by. "Hey, buddy," he said, "I think you're stuck in that net." "That is ridiculous," said the whale. "I am the most powerful animal in the ocean. How could I possibly be stuck?" "Most powerful animal. That's pretty good. I'm more of an idea fish myself," said the fish. "And I have this idea in my head that you're stuck in that net." "Ridiculous," said the whale. And again, he strained and he struggled with all of his might, and again, it did no good. "I might be stuck," the whale admitted. "Maybe I can help," said the fish. "How are you going to help?" scoffed the whale. "I am the most powerful animal in the ocean, and you are a teeny tiny fish." "What this situation needs," declared the fish, "is an idea." So the fish thought and thought and thought, swimming in little circles as he did, and suddenly he shouted, "Eureka! I'll be right back." The fish swam away, and by came back accompanied by a dozen crabs. "All right, my crustacean co-conspirators," said the fish, "what did I tell you? This whale is stuck. Now, if you will all kindly apply your crab claws in a scissor-like fashion, we can cut right through that net in no time." He nudged the whale with a tiny fin. "Not a bad idea, eh?" "Well, actually," said the crabs, "that will take us all day. And frankly, this whale has always been kind of rude to us, blowing on by, knocking us aside, ruining our tiny sandcastles on the ocean floor. If we cut him out of the net, what is he going to do for us?" "This situation," said the fish, "calls for another idea." So he swam and swam and swam in little circles, thinking all the while, until he shouted, "Eureka!" And the teeny tiny fish swam over and whispered a question in the whale's ears. "I can do that," said the whale with a smile, and the fish swam over and whispered the same proposal in the crab's ears. "It's a deal," they said, and with that the crabs used their claws to cut through the fishing net until the whale was free. "Ah, I am so glad to be out of that net," cried the whale in relief. "Thank you. Now are you ready for my part of the bargain?" And the fish and the crabs looked at each other. "Blowhole rides!" And for the rest of the day, the teeny tiny fish and the crabs took turns sitting on the whale's blowhole. With a mighty blast, he would shoot them, laughing high, high, high up in the air until they splashed back down into the water. It was the best day ever. And the whale learned that it was more fun to make new friends than to barrel on by. The moral of the story is that sometimes the most powerful thing in the ocean or even the world is not a mighty whale, it is a new idea. Thank you for sharing our story today. We are going to sing the children out to their religious education classes with Jason Shelton's Children's Blessing. The words are in your order of service.
Good morning. I'm Liz Connors, a member of the Lay Pastoral Care Team, and this is the time in our service when we invite our parishioners and friends to share a joy or concern at the candle stand. If possible, keep your comments brief. After the sanctuary folks, we will hear from people on Zoom, and I will be at the candle stand at the end of the service if someone wishes to light a candle in private.
This community of care and connection is supported by people who choose to co-create it week after week in so many ways, by acts of volunteerism, by the sharing of time and talent and energy, and by the simple gift of showing up week after week to be with each other, to witness each other's joys and sorrows, to share ideas, to inspire and encourage one another. It also relies on your financial generosity, freely given as you are able. And so each week at First Parish, we take an offering as one way to support the ongoing life of this community. The offering will now be taken. May it be joyfully given. This is a reading by Nancy Wood. My help is in the mountain. My help is in the mountain, where I take myself to heal the earthly wounds that people give to me. I find a rock with sun on it, and a stream where the water runs gentle, and the trees which one by one give me company. So must I stay for a long time, until I have grown from the rock, and the stream is running through me, and I cannot tell myself from one tall tree. Then I know that nothing touches me, nor makes me run away. My help is in the mountain that I take away with me.
I lift my eyes to the mountain. Where does my help come from? Our prelude today by Mendelssohn from his Elijah Oratorio takes its lyric from the text of Psalm 121, found in the Hebrew Scriptures. I lift my eyes to the mountain. Where does my help come from? And the text concludes, my help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. Now, the word Lord here is a translation of the Hebrew word Adonai, which is itself a word used to refer to God without saying the name of God directly. Because in the Jewish tradition, one does not say the name of God directly, which is unpronounceable anyway. But denoted by the letters YHWH, from which we get the English transliteration Yahweh, which you've probably heard. And Yahweh, when it is used, or when we read it in the Scriptures, is sometimes thought of as the name of God, in the same way that Jamie is the name of me. But, as Rabbi Shapiro, author of our opening words, points out, this is not right. Yahweh is not the name of a thing, a being that we call God. Yahweh does not denote an entity, because YHWH is not a noun, it is a verb. It is the Hebrew form of the verb to be, only without any limiting factors. So it is not a being, it is being itself. It is becoming, it is happening, it is manifesting. And Rabbi Shapiro says further, it is not really like any of those ing words, but it's more like ing itself. It's like ing. YHWH is the unfolding of being and the ground of being. It is the dynamic being becoming of life unfolding. Energy and endless creative possibility in all that is. It is potentiality rushing to expand beyond all boundaries. It is the act of becoming, liberating being. It is liberation itself. I lift my eyes to the mountain. Where does my help come from? We're in the midst of Passover, the season in which Jewish people celebrate the story of the liberation of their ancestors from slavery in Egypt, as told in the book of Exodus. Passover began at sundown on April 22nd. It will conclude at sundown on Tuesday the 30th. And this is a time when Jewish people, in a variety of ways, remember the bitterness of their ancestors' oppression, and they give thanks for their deliverance. Passover is a story of liberation, and the God YHWH, first encountered by Moses in the mountains on holy ground, is the great liberating force in the story, the power contained within being that breaks bonds and removes chains and liberates the oppressed. And in the Passover tradition and in the Exodus story that retells it, liberation comes from humans working in concert with, in covenant with, the God force, the great becoming being of life itself. And the promise of the covenant is that there is an impulse to liberation and a possibility of liberation that is in some way essential, that is in some way inherent to all that is. Liberation is, in some sense, the story tells us, baked into the nature of what is. And that liberating force then is stronger than pharaohs, stronger than empires, stronger than human armies, and all of the human-made instruments of violence and oppression. And in the Exodus story, this God, this becoming, is faithful. We are never divorced from the possibility of liberation, no matter how far it may seem. We are never divorced from the possibility of liberation, whether that is liberation for us personally, from whatever snare we are personally ensnared in, or whether that is liberation for a people, a freeing from oppression. We are grounded in freedom because we participate in God, the great being becoming. And sometimes the most powerful force in the world is an idea. And the Exodus story is the idea that we are meant to be free, that we are made for freedom in some way. It is a profound vision of liberation, one of the most powerful and hopeful ever told, and one that people everywhere have used and still use to understand and inspire their work for liberation. When I was doing social justice work in Indianapolis in many different traditions, my colleagues returned again and again to the story of liberation, to that hopeful promise that we are made for freedom. What liberates us? What grounds us? I lift my eyes to the mountain. Where does my help come from? The Exodus story invites us to ask, what are the forces that free us? Now, we Unitarian Universalists, we're a theologically diverse bunch, and we understand the forces that free us in different ways. But at the heart of this religious tradition is also the idea that we are made for freedom, that we are meant to be free, and that we are called to participate in the work of liberation for all of us. So this year we've been talking about the proposed 7 core values of Unitarian Universalism, which would, if passed by vote at the General Assembly coming up here in June, become the new statement of our principles and purposes in the UUA bylaws. They would become the new covenant that our congregations enter into. We're going to be talking about this after the service today, again at 11:30. The proposed values are justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, generosity, and love, with love at the center, and the other 6 values spiraling around love as kind of an intertwined, interconnected whole. To these 7 proposed core values, the amendment process has introduced 2 additional values. Those values are reason and peace. And so for the sake of completeness, we're going to talk about these values as well. Reason this week, peace on May 12th. And this is the proposed text, claiming reason as a core value of Unitarian Universalism. Reason. We search for truth and meaning informed by reason, evidence, and the results of science, motivated by wonder, curiosity, and compassion. Read that one more time. We search for truth and meaning informed by reason, evidence, and the results of science, motivated by wonder, curiosity, and compassion. So, once upon a time, back when I was 16 or so, I was working outside in a neighborhood not my own, painting a teacher's house to earn a bit of extra money for the summer. While I was taking a break, a passing neighbor came over from the sidewalk to engage me in conversation. He was an older person, and for some reason, after some, pleasantries, chit-chat, the conversation turned toward religion. I'm sure that he must have asked me about the Bible, this being Indiana, and I probably told him that that wasn't really my jam at this exact moment in my life. I was going through a period of religious exploration. As it happens, I'd stopped identifying as Catholic a few years ago. I was reading a lot and thinking a lot, and I told him about my interests in meditation, Eastern philosophy, quantum mechanics, what is the nature of reality, right? My wrestling with, is there a soul? What's our relationship to that? What is creativity? All of these kinds of questions that I was thinking about. Then after a while, he said to me, "You're a thinker." And that's good, he said. But be careful about thinking too much. It can lead you away from God. And If his entire purpose had been to turn me off of whatever form of organized religion he was selling, he could not possibly have done a better job. Because the idea that thinking could separate one from God, or whatever one chooses to call the sacred, or the divine, or the Tao, or ultimate meaning, right? That was instinctively anathema to my teenage self. I didn't know about Unitarian Universalism at the time. I wouldn't hear those words for more than a decade. But many years later, when my now wife asked me if I wanted to attend a UU church with her, I asked, will I have to pretend I believe in something I don't believe in? And she assured me that no, I would not. And the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the confidence in the power of reason, the veneration of the independent, questioning mind, the respect for the individual right of conscience, these have always been the hallmarks of Unitarian Universalism. And if that had not been true, I would never even have gone through the doors of that congregation. That is not what kept me there. What I fell in love with about the church actually was singing hymns, of all things. But freedom and reason were the essential preconditions of my participating in this religious tradition, as they are for so many. Sometimes the most powerful force in the world is an idea, and one of the most powerful ideas in history is the idea that people should be free to think for themselves, as a corollary and a consequence and a protector of the idea that people should be free, that we are made for freedom. And this tradition of ours has always been a protector of that idea. We believe in the sanctity of the free mind as a precondition of the free spirit, as a precondition of human dignity, as a reflection of our inherent worth and dignity. One day, when he was a young boy, William Ellery Channing, later the great Unitarian founder, William Ellery Channing's father, took him to town on some business, and on the way they stopped to listen to a traveling preacher. This would have been in the 1780s. And the preacher preached what was the standard Calvinism of his day, which would have emphasized the utter depravity of the human spirit, the sinfulness that we are all mired in, the threat of hellfire that awaits us all at Judgment Day from an angry God, and the fact that that judgment had already been made at the beginning of time, your eternal destiny. And young William Ellery Channing was stunned by that sermon. And they drove home in silence, the boy up front in the carriage with his father, reflecting desperately on the terrible predicament that they were in, the terrible fate that threatened him, his father, everyone he loved, and what on earth were they going to do about this? And then he heard his father start to whistle. He was whistling a cheerful tune as he drove the carriage home through the night, and in that moment, young Channing had a revelation. His father didn't really believe it. He didn't believe it because no one could really believe such a thing about reality and go home whistling carefree into the night. So I don't have to believe it either, he decided. And sometimes it is the power of an idea that frees us, and in that flash of insight, Channing's young spirit was freed, and he made it his life's purpose that no one else should ever be caught up in what he had heard preached that day. And indeed, he grew up to be a prophet of an entirely different flavor of religion called Unitarianism that emphasized human goodness, human potential, the power of reason, and the benevolence of the universe. And so reason has been a distinctive part of this tradition going back hundreds of years to its very beginning, right? We're an Enlightenment tradition founded on the idea that the universe is rationally ordered, that this order is rationally discoverable, that humans are rational beings able to discover it. Channing said that the truths of religion are conclusions of reason and must stand or fall with it. If some proposed truth of religion conflicted with reason, reason should win the day. He brought that same spirit to the teaching of children. He wrote, "The great end in religious instruction is not to stamp our minds upon the young, but to stir up their own. Not to make them see with our eyes, but to look inquiringly with their own." And because Unitarians and Universalists believed that reason and religion were in accord, they were early adopters of the theory of evolution as an expression of the creativity of the universe itself. And so it seemed natural to them that religion itself should evolve, and it did. They encouraged freedom of thought and questioning, so people did. And so this tradition brought in more and more ideas. Spiritual insights of other religious and ethical traditions expanded our theological circle wider and wider to include humanists, atheists, agnostics, skeptics, then mystics, pagans, feminists, deep ecologists, and more. And behind all this change and development, underneath it all, was this freeing idea that people should think for themselves, discern for themselves, look for themselves, see the wonder of the world and find our place in it. See the wonder of the world and find our place in it. A few weeks ago, there was an eclipse. You may have heard about it. And a little bit north of here, the eclipse was total. Here in Bedford, where Suzanne and I stayed put, it was a 93% eclipse. So we sat out our chairs out on the lawn, and at the appropriate time, we took our special glasses and we kind of took quick peeks at the sun, right? And we were like, neat. Look, the sun is a little crescent. Normally it's a circle, now it's a little crescent. Neat. Meanwhile, our kids were in Bloomington, Indiana, where the eclipse was total. And they were texting us about this amazing experience that they were having, like nothing else they had ever seen in their life. And for now, I am given to understand that the difference between 93% and 100% for an eclipse is the difference between neat and a life-changing experience of awe and wonder. And awe and wonder are religious values, perhaps the foundational values of religion. Right? Einstein said the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious, the source of all true art and science. He said, "He who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe is as good as dead. His eyes are closed." Today, with access to our ever-expanding scientific understanding of the creation story of the universe, the scientific creation story of the universe, reason and science tell us that all life arose from a single, continuous, ongoing process of creation. Right? The same physical process that sparked the atoms into being, that pulled matter and energy into orderly patterns, that gave rise to galaxies and stars and planets and lawful orbits, that ultimately gave rise to life in all of its myriad of forms, all the same unfolding of being. The scientific creation story that our reason unveils before us tells that everything is fundamentally interconnected. The same critical tool of reason applied to our planet, Earth, increasingly tells us the same story, right? We are interdependent, interconnected beings within richly complex ecosystems governed by subtle interactions. And so the story that reason and science reveal to us about the universe and our place in it, it's humbling. It's awesome in the true sense of the word. It is wondrous. It is astonishingly beautiful in its mystery. And so reason and science are not just a means to spiritual freedom, if the word just is not misapplied there. Reason and science are not only a means to spiritual freedom, they ground us in a vision of the universe and of life and of being unfolding that is awesome. And they ground us, therefore, in gratitude and humility, in the sense that we are part of something truly grand, and that there is always some new wonder around the corner just waiting to be discovered. And the more we learn about the nature of reality, the more we can perhaps see, perhaps through the lens of art, poetry, music, the same being becoming that the Exodus story calls Yahweh, Creativity and potentiality bursting through old forms to create unlimited variations and newness, the raw materials of freedom, expanding in the scientific story of all that is. Knowing that we rest in this infinite becoming, that we have our being in it, and it expresses its being in us. Perhaps we can feel that we are, in some sense, made for freedom, and feel the dignity and the hope in that. And perhaps our spirits will be led then to rebel against everything that stands against this dignity, everything that stands against freedom. Reason and wonder as religious values, grounded in love, can lead us further into the call of justice, further into a vision of liberation, can lead us back to the great idea that we are made for freedom, all of us as interdependent beings. Sometimes the most powerful thing in the world is an idea. Where does my help come from? I lift my eyes to the mountain. Blessed be, and amen. And our closing hymn today is number 399, Vine and Fig Tree, and Brad is going to lead it for us as a round.
So let me explain how this works. Page 399, Vine and Fig Tree. So as Jamie said, it's a round. But of course, the way they print it in our hymn book always makes it a little more difficult than it should be, right? So I was going to do it rather slower, but the choir this morning when we were rehearsing it were like, no, it has to be fast. So you know what? Let's ask this question. How many people have sung this before? How many people have not sung this before? You're going to have a good time. So it does go rather fast, and I'll tell you the tricky part to this hymn. So you sing the first part 2 times, and you sing the second part 2 times. That's not difficult, but it's getting back into it after you finish that second part, because it's fast. And it's got that sort of Hebrew dance feeling to it. So if you can't sing it, you can dance. So anyway, let's have Sandra play it for us, and let's have you stand in either body or spirit, and let's see what happens. Here we go.
closing words are by Annie Forster. Come we now out of the darkness of our unknowing and the dusk of our dreaming. Come we now from far places, come we now into the twilight of our awakening and the reflection of our gathering. Come we now all together. We bring unilluminated our dark caves of doubting. We seek unbedazzled the clear light of understanding. May the sparks of our joining kindle our resolve, brighten our spirits, reflect our love, and unshadow our days. Come we now enter the dawning. Go in peace.